All right. Hello, everyone who is joining. Just getting things set up. So I'm setting up chat. Everyone should be able to use the chat now. Checking. I see we have a good set of it. All right. I see we have a good amount of attendees so far, but I'm going to give it just 1 or 2 more minutes. So we can make sure everyone gets here before we get started. And then I will go ahead and get started. If you want to, you can go ahead and send hello in the chat just so that you know where the chat is. If you are not familiar with Zoom, there is a button at the bottom of your screen. It says chat. If you have any questions, you can use that button, or you can use the Q&A button. You can post any questions you have there as we get going through the seminar. All right. Okay. All right. So I know there are still some people joining. I was working with some coworkers to make sure as many people could be here as possible, but we will also send out a video and a link to the live stream that is on our YouTube. So let's go ahead and get started. We're talking about supporting young coders in competitions. The two primary competitions we're going to be talking about today are the American Computer Science League, or from now on, I will refer to it as the ACSL, and the Beaver Computing Challenge, which I will refer to as the BCC. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So first, we're going to talk about failure as a part of the process in competing, and especially in young people competing. And then we'll go over a little bit about the BCC, the overview, how students can practice for the BCC, and participation in the BCC. And as we're going, if you notice anything like my mic not working or the screen being a little funny, please feel free to post in the chat. I'm not perfect, so sometimes those things do happen, but I have made sure everything is set up. So then we'll talk about the ACSL, overview, practice, participation. So we're covering the same things for both, but it will be a little bit more in depth than it has been in the past because we do have some parents of students who are taking the BCC with us this evening. And then we will talk a little bit at the end about KT-Byte in competitions. We'll talk just a little bit about an offering we're thinking about giving to our parents. And then we'll wrap up with answering any questions I hadn't answered yet, or any questions that parents still have after talking through these few slides. First, I will go ahead and post our poll. It's just an entry poll, so I'll leave it up for a little while. You can complete it as you are able to, but once everyone's completed it, I'll take it down. So go ahead. I'll give you just a few seconds before we get into the material to answer those 4 questions. All right. I see a lot of you finishing up that survey or entry poll. So I will go ahead and get started. So we're first talking about failure as a part of the process in competing, and especially in competing starting at a pretty young age. Obviously, we all know that competitions are a really good way for students to be able to use what they're learning, whether it's with us or anywhere outside of a classroom. A lot of our younger students obviously receive a lot of benefits from competing in a bunch of different competitions, not just the ACSL and BCC, but a lot of them are more easily discouraged if they don't do as well as they thought, or if they get confused, or um, just if maybe they don't score how they wanted to. So a few things that we have thought about here at Katie Bite that can help from a parent's end is setting reasonable expectations. We all know that you cannot be a genius overnight. And with a lot of these competitions, there are a few good entry points for younger students. But we all know that they are not going to be professional coders within a small amount of time. So setting reasonable expectations on what students are going to be able to achieve in each competition is really important. Encouraging students to try things they might not be completely prepared for. We know that failure is one of the best ways to grow, whether it's in coding or any other aspect of life. Failure is a part of life, but a lot of students learn a lot more from failure than they do from success. So make sure that even if students don't necessarily feel prepared, at least allow them to try or encourage them to try or not immediate success that really helps them along both their coding journey and their competition journey. I know students, especially younger students, have a hard time prioritizing practice or doing a lot of self-study. So as parents, not only allowing, but helping to set up different times for students to prepare can be really helpful for students to feel a lot better and maybe be more prepared and maybe not fail, maybe do really well. Not that most students will fail, but setting them up for success does include helping them with those things that we might think are obvious, but helping set up plans for students to compete in competitions. Once it does come time to compete, there are 2 main things we always remind parents of. Limit distractions while students are coding. That can be maybe making sure that the TV is off, potentially some soft music if that helps students, but make sure to limit those distractions because a lot of these tests do have time limits. So we want to make sure that while we are competing, we're focused mainly on the competition and also making sure the student is eating well prior to the competition. With a lot of the longer competitions, they might be sitting at a computer for 3 to 4 hours. For the younger competition, that time is a lot shorter. So it's about 45 minutes to an hour and a half for ACSL. But still, we want to make sure that we're eating well so that we're not in the middle of the competition and need to eat a meal or a snack. And then moving on to BCC overview. The BCC has 3 different divisions, and we've covered this in a lot of our other seminars, so I won't go too in depth into this, but there are 3 divisions: grade 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. They're pretty self-explanatory in what division your student would want to compete in. It's all grade based. And then the format for the grade 5 and 6 group is 12 multiple choice questions for a total of 60 marks. And then 15 multiple choice questions are for the older 2 divisions. Any questions on just kind of a very basic overview? A lot of you have been potentially at our previous parent seminar, so I won't get too into the large scale details. We'll work mainly on the last 2, so practice and participation. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. So I will move on to BCC practice. So BCC, we do not have any classes for it this time, but a lot of the BCC, we want to remember that it's not a coding challenge. For BCC, it's computational thinking and problem solving. So for parents, this is a really great first competition, as well as it is for our students, especially those who don't have as much experience. This isn't necessarily going to require you to know how to write out lines of code, but it is going to make you think, and that itself is really beneficial for younger students, and a great first step for students who are just getting into code but maybe do want to compete. So we're going to go to our ACSL link, and I will send out this slideshow so you'll have all of these links. Since we don't have classes, we do want to give you as many resources as possible, and this is the best resource for BCC. So here on this page, you will see the Beaver Computing Challenge. So this page itself, the hyperlink will take you directly to this segment of the page, but don't get confused. These are all of the other competitions that the Center for Education, Mathematics, and Computing puts on throughout the year. So you can ignore all of this and strictly go to this section here. Once you're here, we'll open up grades 5 and 6, and we'll give that a second to load. But this is the PDF problems for students that are going to be competing in the 5th to 6th grade range. And this is taking a second because within the PDF, I believe there are a lot of images. And so that's why it's taking a minute to load. But we'll let that load, and then I'll check and I'll see if we have any questions. Looks like we don't have any questions yet, so that's good. We are almost there. Woo. So like I said, a lot of images because this is geared toward those younger students. So this is their logo, as you've seen before. And this is the 2022 year. That's the one that I selected. And you'll see that the questions are usually story questions. So Beaver family has 5 children with different heights as shown. The 2 tallest children and the 2 shortest children leave. Which child remains? So these are the types of questions that your student is going to be seeing. And it's trying to get them to order items. You'll see in this one, it's trying to get them to figure out which trail the beaver walks home using these trail passings. Exactly. And it's going to ask which order, so order of operations. There's a lot of different things on these pages, but these are really beneficial. You could print these off, or you could just have your student look at them and write down their guesses. To practice, and it gets them exposed to the type of material that they'll be a little bit more at ease if they are feeling anxious or nervous about competing. So this is a really good resource, and it'll be linked in the slides. So for BCC participation, we've gotten lots of questions on what that looks like and how parents can prepare. So we have sent out all of the BCC usernames and passwords. So if you have not received yours, please send us an email to info@staff.katiebyte.com, and I'll post that in the chat. So if you are a parent who is currently enrolled in our BCC registration, please make sure that in your email you receive your BCC username and password. And you can look for a few different things. I'll post in the chat a little bit later, but just see if you have anything from Katie Bite in your email, check your spam. If you do not have your username and password, please send us an email and we will get that out to you, because the competition will open November 6th. So keep that in mind. So for our BCC participation, we're going to look at two different pages. We'll start off with our guide, even though they're in opposing order, and then we'll go ahead and look at the BCC website. And please remember, if you do want to prepare for the BCC, you should be doing that in the next few days, just because the competition does open the 6th. So if you want to compete as soon as it opens, you want to make sure that you're prepared. So on this flyer that we made, it tells you what the BCC is, which we've kind of already gone over, who can participate. And at this point, if you haven't signed up with us, unfortunately, the deadline for sign up is over, but you can always participate next year. So when is it? This is one of our biggest questions from parents, is when does my student participate, or what day is the live competition? And the reality is there is no one singular day that the live competition happens. The competition is held online, and students have to complete their test within a time frame, which means if you've signed up for the BCC and you've registered with us and you have received your username and password, that between November 6th and November 17th, at some point within that time frame, your student must go online and compete in the live challenge. So we'll go over how that happens, but basically you have that entire, I think it's 2 weeks. Yeah, right around 2 weeks. You have that whole time frame to compete. So we will not be hosting a class that students have to join in order to compete. You now have all of the things you need so that you can hop on and compete. So once November 6th comes, you can compete that same day. But I would encourage parents, for each student schedule is a little bit different. So if I can encourage you, please go ahead and select a day and time that your student feels that they would be comfortable taking this test, basically, or competing, and then set a calendar day or remind them again once it's time to compete. A lot of the younger students do have a hard time picking a day and time that would be good for them. So after this seminar, or after you watch this video, if you're not here live, just go ahead and put in a calendar day or look at your student's schedule and see which day and time would be best for them. And then go ahead and set a calendar reminder or set whatever reminder works best for you, just to make sure that they don't forget and then miss the opportunity. So for registration, we've already completed this. So unfortunately, we cannot take anyone else, but for next year, make sure you go ahead and sign up. How to prepare, we have gone over that, and I did link the problems and solutions here as well. So once you have this worksheet, you can just go ahead and open this, and it is your one-stop shop for all of the different links that are going to be useful for you. And then how do I compete? So obviously now everybody has their login, and then you will be going to this page to compete. So once you're at the Beaver Computing Challenge page, which is also linked in the PowerPoint, you will go ahead and you'll hit the login button. And then once you've hit the login button, you can hit the challenge button. You can see right here, it does say all of the steps that you'll need in order to get started. So if you get lost, just go ahead and go to the link in the presentation, and you can read through this, and it will get you to where you need to go. So remember, set a calendar day and then go ahead, and you can do this before it's time to compete, but make sure to do it all before the deadline on November 17th. All right, does anybody have any other questions about the BCC? Is anything still confusing about how to participate, how to practice, and what to expect? I am not seeing any questions. One other question is for the students who are enrolled in BCC, would anybody be interested in receiving an email or a calendar invite to remind them to compete in the BCC? If you are interested in that, we can go ahead and send out an email through the class so that way all you have to do is click add to calendar and there's no way that you will forget to participate. So let's move on to ACSL. ACSL has 5 divisions that are listed here. And they range in difficulty, obviously, for different students. The contest topics themselves are similar across divisions, but they obviously vary in how difficult they are and how detailed. So really quickly, I know that we've gone over ACSL a few times in various other seminars, but let's go over the divisions. So you, as a parent, once you sign up, you had to fill out a form and it asked what division. If you have not filled out that form, I will have it linked in the slides. But if you have filled out the form, these are the divisions that we're talking about. So we have elementary, junior, intermediate, and senior. So you can see here that junior and elementary are the 2 divisions that generally have rules around grades. So obviously grade 3 to 6 is elementary, capping at 6th grade. Junior division has a cap at 9th grade. Intermediate and senior, it's mostly based on the experience level of your student. So this is linked in the slides. If you want more information once you're filling out the survey, then you can go ahead and look there. If you want to change your division after reading through those, you can go ahead and email us at the info email that's in the chat. So for ACSL practice, if you are currently in one of our classes or have the study materials, that is really the best way to prepare. But if you're really good at self-study and you think your student would prefer to study on their own, or maybe things just don't work out with scheduling, the ACSL themselves do offer 2 really good resources for preparation for the contest. So obviously these study materials are the contest topics and sample contests. So you can see it's split up by division. Senior and intermediate are often thrown together because the thing that mainly varies is level of difficulty from intermediate to senior. And you can see here the contest 1 topics, and then these are some sample contests here. You can see here that ACSL is broken up into 2 main things, short problems and programming problems. The main difference for elementary division is that it does not have a programming problem. It only has short answer computational math problems. Once you get up into junior, intermediate, and senior, those will have both the shorts and the programming problem. So this is a good resource. And then this is the secondary resource. This shows the categories covered during regular season for these divisions, and then the categories covered for elementary divisions. Similar to what we said at the beginning, it's really useful if you are not in any sort of class. It's good to check in once or twice, probably once a week if you can, but kind of dependent on time. Just check in with your student every so often to see whether they've gone through any of these categories, if they're obviously in a class or if they have access to the material, the study material. You can check in with them for that, or for the class, we're obviously going to check in with them as the instructor. So these are some really useful pages that we recommend for preparing for ACSL. One of the main questions for each of these competitions is how much preparation is needed. So for BCC, we didn't really cover this because it's a really good entry-level competition. A lot of times, since it's computational thinking or logic-based, logical thinking, it doesn't require as much practice. But once you're getting to ACSL, especially in the higher divisions, that you get out of something what you put into it. So the more you practice, the better. And ACSL is over the span of 4 contests, not just one contest. Um, yep, I'm getting right to that. So ACSL does have 4 competitions. So you'll see here for participation, you have 4 contests. The expectation that you will compete in all 4, and your score at the end of the year, and what will get you a certificate, whether you get invited to finals or not. So that all depends on all 4 contest scores. So you have to compete in all 4 if you want a chance to be invited to finals. And as a whole, your entire participation is based on the composite score of all 4 contests. So with ACSL, it is similar to the BCC in that you have a span of time for contest 1. It just opened today, November 1st. So if you are in our ACSL group and you are within, or if you're in any classes, wait for your instructors to tell you they've covered all the material for contest 1 to compete in contest 1. But you have from now a large window of time to compete. And remember that once you get the HackerRank email, you have access to the competition. Make sure you feel prepared. If you are in the elementary division, you won't have to worry about the programming problem. But for all of the other divisions, keep in mind you will also have the programming problem. So this will go over a guide for how to get into HackerRank, making your account and all of that, and then how you can submit your test. All right. Yeah. So for Han, yes, students do need to participate in all 4. Their overall score is the composite of all 4. And then they may have the opportunity to go to finals at the end. So finals is here. You can see it'll be Saturday, May 25th. Yeah. So this gives you a little bit of information. To be invited, students must score 24 points or more. Cutoff for elementary is 12. For ACSL, we still are allowed to take registrations until January 14th because they have a lot wider of a range for when we can register teams and when we can add our last student. So since it starts today and they give such a wide range, you are still able to register to be on our ACSL team. So I will show you all how to do that in case you have not done that yet or want to. And maybe didn't know it was an option. ACSL is here. Like to give that 1 second, and then I'll go ahead and post the link in the chat. So you can see here for ACSL, we have ACSL registration, which will allow you to register just for the contest. And then you will have to fill out a survey telling us how old your student is and what division you'd like to participate in. You can use the divisions link from the previous slide. For ACSL Elementary, this is a class. So you can see if we open it, this one will have class meetings with an instructor. It'll have homework. Here you can kind of see some of our sample projects that we'll be working on. We have access to all of the old competition material. So it allows for us to kind of focus on what each competition will entail. You can see we have one that meets on Tuesdays and Fridays. So you can choose that. If you do choose to enroll in a class, you do not have to register using this registration button. You have 3 options. You can register just for ACSL and you just want to compete. You can choose to register for a class, or you can choose to just get the ACSL content. So from us, we have to buy this content and then buy more each year as the old competitions are sent. But you can see that if you do decide to just get the content, this will also register you for being on our team. So you do not have to do two of these things. You just select one. You can register. You can either choose the class or the study materials. And we do have a class in study materials for elementary, junior, and we combine intermediate and senior. So I hope that that answers both of your questions. So when could I register my son? Technically, you can register them until we'll say January 13th because we want you to have enough time to at least take the test. And you can choose to use registration, the class, or the study materials. Not and, never and. All right. So that ends for our participation section for ACSL. For this slide, we obviously always want to support students in lots of competitions. We've been working to add more competitions. This year was our first year hosting the AIO, the Australian Informatics Olympiad. We also hosted our first hackathon this year, which was really good to have our students participate in. We had some really fun projects come out of it. And we know that for parents, it can be a very confusing process, but we do want to keep them accessible. So if anybody would be interested in advising about competitions, please let me know in the chat. You can type yes, you can send a thumbs up. This would just be setting up a work plan for your student, which would just mean providing materials, helping set reminders, checking in to make sure that accounts have been created, helping you create accounts, and then potentially a newsletter or keeping you aware of different and competitions coming up. So send an email to the info@email, or you can let us know in the chat. But other than that, that finishes up the content that we have to cover in our meeting today. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the exit poll. So the exit poll is for questions. If you want to, you can go ahead and finish those. And if you do have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat or ask a question in the Q&A. I'm happy to stay on for a little while and answer questions, help parents. But after you finish the poll, you are for the day. I hope this was informative. And please let me know if you have any questions. So I'll hang out here for a little bit. I'm happy to answer questions. I'll also share my video since we've lost the screen share.